Hey, good evening and welcome to Pop Go the Writers.
That's because you've been complaining about my pop.
You lagged a little bit there, but it worked out okay.
Yeah.
All right, folks, this is the 33rd episode of I Can't Believe We're Still Doing This Show.
And that it's not butter.
And it's what?
And that it's not butter.
Right, and that it's not better either. Man,
you would think
we would have
33. Yeah. Proof positive that repetition does not necessarily equal improvement.
That's right. That's exactly. All right, tonight we're going to talk about some of the latest news and, of course, the latest Marvel's What If, the show-changing episode of What If Ultron Won. But we're going to get into some news firsthand. I haven't covered this, and I'm going to, but Paul and I talked about it last week. I started watching The Lost Symbol over on Peacock, which is on the free tier.
Yep.
And I am really enjoying it so far.
Really? Nice.
Hey, Doc, how you doing?
What's up, Doc?
Peter is an old Warcraft friend of mine who played under the name of Doc in one of my first guild I was ever in. So, so I started watching The Lost Symbol, and I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying it. I had to get used to it not being Tom Hanks. Ashley Zuckerman is doing a fine job, but there's this thing about Tom Hanks. There's this like inherent honesty about him that comes across in the character. So when he says something, you believe him.
Yeah,
and that's why he can play.
Very guileless.
Yes. So you believe him when he plays Mr. Rogers or Walt Disney or stuff like that. These characters that Zuckerman hasn't earned yet. So you kind of watch the show thinking, you don't get that immediate, oh yeah, he's doing this. So there's still that maybe he has an ulterior motive feeling that doesn't work with Robert Langdon. You need to believe in him. But so it's a pretty interesting show. I'm hoping Paul might give it a watch if he gets into those kind of shows, and we could talk about it.
Maybe if it retires.
If it what?
If it retires, I'll give it a watch.
It's 3 episodes.
I've been telling uncle jokes all weekend long.
That's right. You went to your niece's wedding. Oh God.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just like,
it's gonna be a long
stop.
show.
Yeah.
Let me read this real quick. I'm doing fantastically. Thank you for asking. Better than I've been in 20 years. Maybe better than ever. Then hit me up sometime, bro, if you got time. All right. I will definitely look you up, Doc. Thanks for coming by, man. All right. So Lost Symbol's been a lot of fun. I covered it on the Dan Wickline show during the week, but I kind of did a deep dive into the history of the Dan Brown books, how they may not have been as popular as they are if the Catholic Church hadn't decided to tell people not to read them. There's nothing better for a writer than the Catholic Church to come out and condemn your book.
Well, I'll tell you, it also didn't hurt. Well, it did, but as far as sales went, it did not hurt when Salman Rushdie got an Ayatollah to declare a fatwa on him. However, I will give I don't think he would have traded the sales for the years of actually having to have undercover but
true.
But I remember a lot of
I think Dan Brown's fine.
Yes, Dan Brown should be fine. Whereas I just remember a lot of ignoramuses coming in to the bookstore I was working and going, "Give me that there satanic verses," because the Ayatollah says I ain't supposed to read it. It's like, have you read anything more complicated than a menu recently? And they're like, huh?
Well, I read the one in the Cracker Barrel. Does that count?
Yeah. I read the little story blurbs, too, that go with it. You know,
If the longest book you've read is the menu at the Cheesecake Factory, which is pretty much a book, then it's.
Yeah. I noticed that we had a lot of customers pre-order it, and then they didn't pick up their pre-purchased copies because they made their gesture already.
Yes.
Anyway, but the Lost Symbol's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. They're dropping every Thursday, so they're in between like Disney's night and Netflix night. When Netflix put all their shows out on Friday, they're doing Thursday. And I'm still not over the fact they call it Peacock, because that's still a stupid name.
Okay, and that is on Peacock. I'm writing it down.
And it's on the free tier, so you don't have to pay for it. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Everything we seem to cover, you've got to pay a subscription for. So it's nice to be able to talk about a show that people can just sign up and not have to pay a damn penny. Yeah, and I wouldn't even have tried it had you not pointed that out to me last week.
That there was a free tier?
Yeah. And there's some cool stuff on there. All the John Wick movies are on the free tier. The original Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. Some of The Office. House.
The Amber Ruffin Show.
Yes, Amber Ruffin, who I had never heard of. And then I started catching some clips on Seth Meyers called Jokes Seth Can't Tell, where it's Amber and this other woman telling
Jenny.
Yeah, those are surprisingly funny.
Oh, Seth, why don't you tell one?
No, I couldn't. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's always a setup. It is the equivalent of Lucy holding the football.
Yep.
Yep. Though I did see the one they brought his mom on to do one of the jokes.
Yeah.
All right. So.
All right.
Let's move on to topic number 1. Now, this was actually, I don't remember if we talked about it last week, but I believe you and I are both big fans of White Collar.
I actually have not watched White Collar much. People keep telling me to watch White Collar. I have not hit a place, and when it was first on, there was something else going on, back when we had to choose what TV to watch.
Yes. I got hooked on this show quickly. The pilot episode, the interaction between Neil Caffrey's, played by Matt Bomer, and Peter, played by Tim DeKay, is fantastic. The interaction between the two of them is so much fun. Tiffany Amber Thiessen is also a lot of fun as Peter's wife.
Yeah.
Diane Carroll is in it.
Really?
Yes, Diane Carroll is in it as this woman who takes Neil in into her house because she's an old jazz. Her husband used to be a jazz guy, and she was at this used clothing store selling off some of his old gear, and it was all Rat Pack type stuff. And Neil took it, and she ended up inviting. They just hit it off. But one of the most fun characters was Mozzie. Mozzie is this other con man, Neil's partner. He's a conspiracy guy. If you ever watched the Human Target series that was on for a while with Chi McBride and Jackie Earle Haley, he was a little bit like Jackie Earle Haley's character, not in the scary Guerrero character, but just the way he could always just do things differently and get things done.
Right.
That was Mozzie. And of course, I just faded out, didn't I?
I'm still hearing you.
Okay. So Mozzie was played by Willie Garson, who tragically and sadly passed away on the 21st of September at the way too young age of 57. And Willie had an amazing career. I mean, I looked him up just to see, in just the last few years, he was in the show Quarantine. He was on Supergirl 3 different times. He was a regular on Hawaii Five-0, and even crossed over onto Magnum as the same character. He was, of course, on Sex and the City, Hold A Down, Franklin and Bash he popped up on. The guy has just got this who's who. I mean, he was even on Pushing Daisies back when that was on.
Which is
John from
such
John
a spectacular show.
It is. Pushing Daisies was great and should have gotten more time. But I mean, his IMDb page goes on forever, it seems.
Yeah.
And I mean, he started working in 1986, and it just never stopped. He was on the Newhart Show, Coach, Troop Beverly Hills, Mr. Belvedere. He was a recurring character on Mr. Belvedere as Carl. And just show, I mean, over and over. Quantum Leap he popped up on a few times. Yeah, he was in The Rock. You know,
I did not remember that.
No, he showed up as a security guard in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was on Ally McBeal. He was on NYPD Blue as a character named Henry Caulfield who kept appearing. He was in 7 episodes of NYPD Blue, Boy Meets World. Like I said, he just had this absolutely amazing career. But the 2 biggest roles that people seem to remember him from are either Sex and the City, where he was the partner of Mario Batone? No.
Cantel? Mario Cantel?
Maybe. I'm skipping his name. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Cantone.
Cantone, that's it. Mario Cantone, who's also very funny. And the 2 of them were great.
Yeah.
But his character of Mozzie was just so good on White Collar. And I loved that show so much. And it's still a show that I wish they would do a reunion of. It's a show, you know, that they could come back and do like one more episode, one more big con, something like that. I think it would be great. But now I question whether they should without Mozzie.
Yeah.
Because he was just such a fun and integral part of the show that it would feel wrong without him, you know? So just wanted to give a little homage to Willie Garson. I thought he was just a great actor. He was also an adoptive father. You know, he adopted a kid, and his son has posted some tributes to his dad since then, and just a really great guy. So it's sad to hear his passing. And if you have not watched White Collar, go back and at least watch the pilot. It's one of those that it should hook you, and you'll get a good feel for the show in it. Also, Alexander Daddario was a recurring character on there as well. So, yeah, it's just a really good show, and it's a great heist show, but from the point of view of him trying to help stop the bad guys.
Right.
So, all right. Since you hadn't watched it, I assume you didn't have anything to add.
Just that he was pretty delightful in any role that he was in. I mean, he was one of those guys that he always added something. You know, it wasn't you never went, oh, there was Willie Garson and you know, it always was like, ooh, and sometimes it was, ooh, that guy, you know, early on. But he always gave something special to the role. So it is sad. And
he's not the only one we lost recently. There's constantly, you turn on the news, but Norm Macdonald's the other one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And Saturday Night Live did a nice little tribute to him last night, where they let him have the last 3 jokes of Weekend Update, which is one of the things he did. But there's been such a great outpouring for Norm as well, who I thought was grossly underrated as a comedian.
Yeah,
but
I was actually a little worried when Pete Davidson came out with the Norm T-shirt that was all he was going to get, because of course SNL's parting with Norm was not exactly on the best of terms,
right?
So, but I was glad to see that they actually followed it up with an official tribute.
Yeah. Though I did think the best joke of the night had to go to Colin Jost, who was talking about the new white paint they created. It's the whitest white paint ever.
Yeah.
And he said, it's so white that I'm their favorite character, or I'm their favorite person on SNL.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, hey, I see what you did there. You did a Colin Jost to Scarlett Johansson transition.
So maybe we are getting
Ah,
better after 33 episodes. We're going
yeah,
to
I
talk
guess so.
now about Colin Jost's lovely bride, Miss Scarlett Johansson, who probably had some fun fleecing the pockets of Disney, and deservedly so.
Yes.
If you guys haven't been following this case, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of it. Basically, Scarlett Johansson had a contract for Black Widow where she got a percentage of the box office. Prior to the film coming out, she reached out to Disney's lawyers and going, is this still going to get a theatrical release? The lawyer for Disney came back and said, yes, this is absolutely going to be a theatrical release, a traditional theatrical release. So she was just, confirmed on that was that. And then before we jump in, Brian, you are absolutely right. His Burt Reynolds on Celebrity Jeopardy was hilarious, along with whoever was doing the Sean Connery.
Oh, that was Daryl Hammond.
I couldn't tell with the makeup. He was so covered. I couldn't tell that was Daryl Hammond, but yeah.
Yeah.
Which-
is mine, Trebek.
Which would be a great segue to What If, because Daryl Hammond was in What If. But yeah.
But we'll get back to that.
Yeah. So Scarlett had, so they went ahead and put Black Widow out as a split release, a day and date with Disney Plus. And it made $60 million on Disney Plus. But Disney didn't compensate for that. They didn't say, okay, well, we made this here, we made this here. And her lawyers or her agents tried to reach out and settle this immediately. And they were basically looking for about $20 million to compensate for it. And the new head of Disney, Disney's new CEO, president, whatever his name is, Bob Chapek. He replaced Bob Iger. And Bob not only did not deal with this up front, he had an opportunity at a convention type setting where the agent came up to him and said, hey, we're here. Let's just talk this out. And the guy went, no, I'll have my people call you. And then it never did.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it came out that she was actually going to sue, because she's owed this money at this point, there is breach of contract. Disney's response, or at least Bob Chapek's response, is to put out a press release that basically says how much Scarlett did make off the movie and how he thinks she's being greedy for wanting more money in a pandemic.
And insensitive to what all the other people went through. And I see people backing, kind of like backing him up. Like, why does Scarlett Johansson need more money? And I'm like, why does Disney need more money?
Yeah, because
it's sort of like the people who complain about sports figures. Like, I don't like sports, professional sports. That's me. But every time they complain about, these sports guys make all the money. And I'm like, and the owners can afford to pay them that money, and they do the actual work.
Yep.
She did the actual work. Bob What's-His-Face did not do the work.
And
He's
Disney agreed to this. Yeah, Disney agreed to this in the beginning. Now, Bob Chapek, from what I understand, and I don't have confirmation on this, but this is what the word is, also gets a bonus depending on the number of signups for Disney Plus.
Aha!
Yes. So it made $60 million just from the premium thing, but you had to sign up for basic as well. So Bob Chapek's going to make a nice chunk of money off of having Black Widow on Disney Plus premiere.
Yeah.
Well, they it started rumbling in the trades and stuff, and yeah, some people did take Chapek's side, but not nearly as many that took Scarlett Johansson's side. And as this progressed, it started looking worse and worse for Chapek, who also put his foot in his mouth by referring to Shang-Chi as a fun little experiment.
Oh.
Yeah. What he was talking about was the fact that it only had a 45-day window. So they would see what about being able to take it to the pay-per-view stuff earlier than normal, because normally it's a 90-day window. Right. But the way he said it, Simu Liu came out and said, "We're not an experiment," and got kind of in his face. And of course, this whole thing upset Bob Iger, who's still the chairman.
Yeah.
And some guy named Kevin Feige, who works with all these people and it's very important to them. Oh, and Scarlett Johansson's got other movies in line with Disney, so some of those people were getting upset, like Disney's Tower of Terror that she's going to co-star in.
Yeah.
Well, so then Disney went, okay, let's settle this in arbitration quietly in New York. It's like the lawsuit was filed in Los Angeles, and we want to go to court. And then if it went to court, all of it would be open to public scrutiny.
Yeah.
You could get a hold of all those records, where if it went to private arbitration, it would all end, and they weren't going for that. So suddenly it came out. The Hollywood Reporter came out with this on Friday, on the 30th. That's Thursday. Scarlett Johansson, Disney settle explosive Black Widow lawsuit. The settlement ends a back-and-forth PR battle pitting CAA-repped star against the studio that was poised to have a dramatic implication for all of Hollywood's major players. Because this was because other movies have done these day-and-date releases. And so a lot of actors and stuff were looking at this. Other people were talking about suing because, their movie suddenly came out, on James Gunn, Suicide Squad, that didn't get a theatrical release, or it got a day and date. All these movies that are getting day and date, especially at a time now where we're seeing these movies do fine in theaters, not as well as they probably should have, but they're doing well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was a big thing. I think the last thing Disney wanted to do was have all of it just put out there.
Because could you imagine if that goes to court and suddenly all that Hollywood accounting is under scrutiny, and they have to explain why some movies never made a profit at all?
Yes, exactly. And CAA was smart. They went in lawsuit saying we want $100 million. They didn't want $100 million, but no. You always go in with a higher number. What they originally was looking for was $20 million, which was what they were originally going to settle. But they thought that was a reasonable number, and it was probably they would have taken 10 or 15 because you always go in with a higher number. Well, again, word is she got $40 million, which is very good. And again, for what they made off that movie, she probably got a little more than she would have had they actually done it properly.
Yeah.
But by raking her over the coals in public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was that. I think there's probably a little, we're sorry, Miss Johansson, in there.
Yeah. But this was the thing that got me. So both Scarlett and Disney put out a release. Scarlett said, very simple, I'm happy to have resolved our differences with Disney. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years, and I have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team. I look forward to contributing our collaboration in years to come. Now, that tells me she probably got a few projects greenlit at the same time.
Could be, yeah.
But that's reinstated by Alan Bergman, the chairman of Disney Studios. Not Disney itself, just the studios part of it. He says, I'm very pleased that we have been able to come to a mutual agreement with Scarlett Johansson regarding Black Widow. We appreciate her contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and look forward to working together on a number of upcoming projects, including Disney's Tower of Terror. So, two important things there. Number one, a number of projects. So, yes, she's got a few things greenlit now. Her future is nice and solid. Number two, the release was from Andrew Bergman, not Bob Chapek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he couldn't have come out and made that release. He has got so much egg on his face right now. He's probably getting calls from Bob Iger, Kevin Feige, and stuff. Yeah, this has not been a wonderful start for Bob Chapek. Chapek, who even came out at I don't know where it was, but he came out and said that, yeah, we made a mistake with the Black Widow lawsuit. We're going to have to relook at how we do contracts going forward. Basically admitting that they screwed her under.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I think he got a complimentary call from the former president going, "I like your style." But I just hosed my company to the tune of like $20 million. But you stood firm.
Yeah, we looked at it strongly. But I should bring that up before we move on to another topic.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Brian, I did notice that Stephen King also liked *Malignant*. And there's a good number of people who liked *Malignant* who were fans of the giallo style of horror or Dario Argento. So there were a lot of people who went into it knowing what they were going to get and liked what they got.
Yeah.
I think if you aren't a fan of that particular style or really knew that's what it was trying to do, they're going to hate it. And it's been like that. It's been love or hate.
Yeah. Well, you know what they call the people that liked *Malignant*, right?
Tumors?
Wrong.
Go ahead, Uncle Paul. What joke do you have?
No, they called them wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Look,
I'm sorry. You thought I was channeling the PBS NewsHour guy there.
Yeah. I once got in trouble with my now ex-wife, Debbie. We were in a discussion and we were disagreeing on, I don't remember what we were disagreeing on. I said, look, okay, we're just going to have to resolve the fact that in this relationship, one of us is right and the other one is you.
Can't imagine why you're exes.
That's not why we became exes. But it was the most odd thing to watch as she got angry and laughed at the same time because it was a funny line and it was well delivered, but she was also like, ugh. So. All right, let's move on to another topic. So
do we have to?
Scarlett Johansson got her money and good for her.
Yeah. Put it this way. I think that there's more chance of Scarlett making charitable donations, for example, with some of that money.
Yes.
Than just Disney Incorporated.
Yes. And can you tell me?
Not that I don't love Disney if you want to hire me for anything.
And you can't tell me another the happiest dancing white man on Thursday had to be Colin Jost. We got how much? Oh yeah.
Doing the call.
All right. Yes. Going to go on to speaking of Black Widow and box office.
Yes.
Black Widow was the top pandemic era opening film, but it was passed this weekend by Venom: Let There Be Carnage, who Black Widow made $80.8 million. Well, Venom: Let There Be Carnage brought in $90.1 million over the weekend. Now, it also beat its predecessor, the original Venom movie, which only made $80.2 million back in 2018. So that's really great during a pandemic, but it's kind of, you can't really compare it to Black Widow, though everybody is, because Black Widow had a day and date release. Venom didn't. Yeah. Venom wasn't competing against itself, basically.
I believe the official title of the first movie was "We Are Venom." Bum, 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 bum. Every time he said that, I couldn't hear the Farmers commercial.
And now it's got the Farmers guy in it.
Yeah. Back as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep. Now, the fact that it did so well, I think partly is based on the fact that it's getting such great reviews
Yeah.
Everybody's like, if you like the first one, you'll love it. If you didn't like the first one, you're probably still going to like this one. Andy Serkis is supposed to have had improved upon the original. It's only 90 minutes long. Well, it's 97 minutes with the credits. So theaters can crank out a few more
viewings, whatever.
That's going to help. And then word of mouth that there is a post-credit scene that directly affects the MCU.
Well, I look forward to discussing that when we go off the air.
Yeah. We both know it. Neither one of us have seen the movie yet. I'm going to go tomorrow afternoon. Are you going to get to see it this week?
Probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
Kind of hoping we could talk about it next weekend.
You're going to make me watch this movie, aren't you?
It's supposed to be good.
I just hate Venom. I just never. No offense to David Michelini, but I've just never liked Venom. And
Brian's seen it, and he says the movie itself was a B plus. Post credits was insane.
So, well, okay, there you have it, folks.
Yep. Either that, or I could have Brian be my guest next week.
Aww.
We'll see. If you get there, great. If you don't, then I'll just do a review and we'll move on, like we did with Malignant. I didn't make you go see Malignant.
And Suicide Squad because you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I do think that the number, though great, I mean, 90 million opening weekend. That's better than Shang-Chi did. That's really good. Yeah. Now, Shang-Chi was a new IP and has had great legs since, winning the box office for 4 weeks in a row. I don't think Venom's going to stay in the top next week. There's that little James Bond movie coming out.
Now that I'm going to see.
Yeah, that is going off huge overseas. It's pulled in 119 million in offshore without the U.S. or China, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's the first 100 million offshore. It's the first to top 100 million. It's breaking all the records in all the pandemic records for sure. But I think only Skyfall. No, Spectre. Spectre is the only one that's still leading it. It's past Skyfall, past all the other James Bond movies. And, if you think about it, it's still in a pandemic time. They still have the restrictions. And it's only about 17% below what Spectre did its opening weekend. That is phenomenal. And I know a lot of people were really excited for this movie, being the last Daniel Craig, being that this has been in, it's been postponed at least a year.
Yeah.
And there's also been, there has been some speculation that perhaps Rami Malek's, is that how you pronounce his name? Rami Malek?
I think it's Rami
Malek. That his character may actually be someone else from the Bond lore. Kind of like how Christoph Waltz's character turned out to be Blofeld.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, it's not that case, but there's a lot of homages to that character in the movie.
Does he have an extra nipple?
No.
Okay.
He's not Scaramanga.
I just thought there would be some symmetry there because he, played Freddie Mercury, Scaramanga. Can you do the Fandango?
That's a stretch. No, it's Dr. No. A lot of people thought he would be Dr. No.
Ah.
And especially with No Time to Die, and from what I understand, the characters are similar, but and there's some homages to him, but there is no big reveal.
But I was going to say, but with a little less casual racism.
Yes, definitely casual racism. So yeah,
hello, I am a white man with this horrible makeup.
You mean like John Wayne and Genghis Khan, or Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's?
And don't even get me. I as much as it pains me to say it, or Joel Grey and Remo Williams, The Adventure.
Oh yes. And then you look at half of Sean Connery's roles, and it's like he's playing Arab.
Yeah. Wait, he's playing an Egyptian by way of Spain, and he still talks like this.
Yeah, and he had a dialect coach for the movie.
Yeah, well, so did the funny thing is that so did Christopher Lambert.
Yeah,
and the dialect coach was very successful because they taught him a dialect that mashed together a bunch of different accents, and then everybody went, he doesn't even know what he's trying to say.
Yeah, they specifically did that because he's supposed to be a world traveler.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's lived 500, 600 years, traveled all over the place.
I would like just to see all movies go back to mid-Atlantic.
Now, see, that's an idea I could get behind.
Exactly.
I want to go back to this inflection, too.
Yes. I think we should do the entire show that way, don't you?
I can't see how that would go terribly wrong.
Golly gee, I think that would be a swell idea.
Swell idea indeed. Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, I think we get so few viewers that day.
As
Brian
opposed to our hundreds.
Yeah. Brian points out Robert Loggia in Scarface. Yeah, there have been some really bad casting.
Was he supposed to be Cuban in Scarface?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's oof. But of course, we all know his crowning achievement was Roadhouse, followed closely by Innocent Blood.
All right. I think we've worked our way through the news. We talked about Venom. We talked about James Bond. We talked about Scarlett Johansson, Norm Macdonald, and Willie Garson. Not bad.
Yep.
And we still have about 50 minutes to talk about What If.
What if we didn't?
Ooh, good question. Let's ponder that. What if we had a narrator came in and talked about us not talking?
Yeah, I was going to say, get Jeffrey Wright on the phone.
Yes. Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher, the ultimate blow it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything was gone. He didn't notice. His life was meaningless. And who's that? I'm going to keep talking anyway. And oh God, he figured out it's me.
Yeah. And then after he figured out it was me, I kept on talking and watching him and gave him time to find me again.
That's right.
Whoops.
Yeah. I'm going to start with the fact that it's a little confusing that we end the previous episode with the Watcher seeing Ultron Vision coming through a portal with a bunch of drones to take on that world and is surprised. And then we when it happens and the Watcher was watching it. How was he surprised then?
Well, I think that you've got to take into account that there's this thing called poetic license.
No. Poetic license is the enemy of continuity.
Yay? But no, I just got the impression that it was a different instance, that he saw him move on to that other world, went back and kind of rewound everything, And then the second time that he was like, "Who's there?" was a different instance. But it does seem weird to me that the Watcher didn't go like, "Hey, this guy's got all 5 of the Infinity Stones, or six.
Yeah.
Maybe I should watch my step around him. He's oozing with cosmic power."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and does zombie Thanos get all 6? Will he be able to hop around? Are we not done with zombie Thanos then?
Maybe we're looking at zombies versus robots.
I'm thinking we might, because there is a clip of Party Thor talking to Strange Supreme and saying, "Zombies, great idea."
Oh. The hollow-eyed Doctor Strange.
Yes. They've been calling him Strange Supreme.
Oh, okay. That's weird. He doesn't have backup singers.
I know. He does, but they're all inside of him.
Fair.
He swallowed all
But yeah,
of them.
that's yeah, and then when he showed up at the end, I'm like, "Oh, look, it's Shumagorath," and then I'm like, "Oh, nope, it's Strange."
Yes. So yes, this whole series has been connected as I thought it was going to be. I said that in the beginning, and we are building to something. Again, I do feel it's a little rushed. I would like them to have done a full season of just what if stories, but yeah, Marvel's going to do what Marvel's going to do.
Well, and they're doing they're doing the story they want to do, not necessarily the story we want them to do.
I can have an opinion, but I'm not going to let it ruin what they are doing, which a lot of people do. They go, "Oh, this didn't happen." Well, yeah.
I guess my fandom has been broken, because I'm now at this point where, like, I want the characters to feel spiritually faithful to the comics, but I used to be, like, "Oh, that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, and ooh, that makes me mad." And now I'm like, different version.
Yeah.
With everything but one character. Batman. Every time I see...
You logged there. Batman what?
Every time I see a live-action Batman, I feel like they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Because they just emphasize the wrong parts. They're not spiritual. They do not feel spiritually resonant to the comic version that I like. But
I got over that years and years ago. I saw Todd McFarlane, of all people, at a convention in LA, and he was doing they were talking about the cartoon, and the movie was coming out. Shows you how long ago it was. And somebody asked him why the movie was so different from the cartoon, and that was so different from the comics. And he said, "Why wouldn't it be?" He said, "The comics are my telling the story. The cartoon is somebody else's telling the story. And the movie is a third person telling the story. Why would you want to see the exact same story 3 different times? They should be different. It's someone else's take on an idea." And so as soon as I heard that, I went, okay. So as long as they're telling the heart of the story, it doesn't have to be beat for beat.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. For example, with Steve Rogers in Captain America: The First Avenger, they got his core. They got his essence.
Yeah.
I don't feel that they have done that in any of the live-action Batman movies, although a friend of mine will always say, "Well, Batman 60." And I'm like, okay, that may have captured the feel of the character at the time, but it's still not the Batman I want to see.
Yeah. I can see that. There are some Batmans I'm good with, some that I'm like, I'm curious what the Robert Pattinson's going to be. I liked Ben Affleck. I was good with Christian Bale. I wasn't a huge fan of the Tim Burton run. I mean, I liked Michael Keaton, and they were fun to see the movies, and but they were a little more campy than I wanted.
I thought it was so hilarious that they talked about how we are not going to do camp. This will not be camp. And then they had Jack Nicholson dancing through a art gallery or art museum, splashing stuff with paint, going whoop whoop whoop, whoop whoop. Right, so you're not going to be camp.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the Christopher Nolan movies more than I did the Tim Burton or Joel Schumacher. It's like I'll be honest. I enjoyed and I'm going to be called sacrilegious for this. I enjoyed Man of Steel more than I did Superman.
I'm backing away. I don't want to be hit by the lightning.
I think Christopher Reeves was amazing, but it's still a campy feel to it. There is still a lot of camp to it, and I don't like that in my stuff. I prefer more straightforward drama, storytelling, action. I don't want a lot of camp, you know?
You just want murder.
I mean, and there were parts of Man of Steel that weren't good. Nobody can explain to me, and I don't think anybody will be able to, why he didn't save his father. That was just dumb.
Well, and see, that's what I'm talking about, missing the essence of the characters. Making Pa Kent go, be afraid, be very afraid. As opposed to saying, be careful, but you've got to help people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they missed the boat on that one. But I thought they did a cool job with Jor-El. I actually liked Action Jor-El.
With Kung Fu Grip?
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. But like I said, the Superman movie for me was a little campier than I like.
Okay.
But again, Christopher Reeves was a great Superman. To me, it's the script was a little campy. And they got worse as they took it away from Richard Donner.
Yeah.
But
we were talking about What If.
Right. Side story about What If, which I found fascinating, is there's the one scene where we're doing this a little out of order, but Ultron is punching the Watcher through multiverses, and they land in Times Square with Steve Rogers being sworn in as president on the big screen.
Yeah.
That is actually an Easter egg for a pitch that the writer A.C. Bradley made twice for the series. Now, there was a What If comic back in the day where What If Captain America became president. And it was very focused on stopping Red Skull. And I don't know if he actually became president or if he got sworn in, but he ended up sacrificing himself to save the planet. So it was never about actually being president.
And of course, there was an in-continuity story by Stern and Byrne about Captain America running for president.
Yeah. A lot of What If stories eventually got put into the mainstream in one way or another.
Yeah, in one way or another, yeah.
Yeah. But the version that A.C. Bradley wanted to do was not going to be that. She basically wanted to do an Aaron Sorkin West Wing style homage. She wanted it to be with all of the characters from the West Wings having analogy or analogs with characters from Cap, from his character, like Bucky and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be it. And she's like, there'd be walk and talks and all this other stuff. And she pitched it twice and it got rejected twice. And she finally said, I understand why they rejected it, because this is kind of an action show. And that is a very dialogue heavy style.
Yeah.
But how fun would it be to see like Black Widow as the equivalent of a CJ Craig,
Yeah.
Falcon as in the Sam character, something like that.
It's like,
Sam.
yeah. What was the name? Was it a full lid? They called it when they were done, and it's like somebody goes like, and she just turns and looks at them. Okay, yeah, we're going. Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't you Russian? How are you in the White House?
Yeah.
Never mind. Nope, we're good. We're good. I would have enjoyed that, I think, but then I'm a huge Sorkin fan. So,
I'm not familiar with Huge Sorkin.
Yeah, he's Aaron's older brother, Hugh. But I go back to like Sports Night. I'm a huge Sports Night fan.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I actually was late to West Wing because I just didn't I was not a big political junkie at that time. But I dearly loved Sports Night to have the 10th anniversary edition. Yep. And then went back and now I've watched, West Wing 2 or 3 times through, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'm the freak that loves Studio 60.
Yep, I enjoyed Studio 60s a lot. That was good. See Matthew Perry in a role other than Chandler Bing and being good at it. That was a fun show.
Well, if you want to see Matthew Perry in a role that's not Chandler Bing and have a lot of fun with it, then you need to see Mr. Sunshine.
I watched Mr. Sunshine. I thought the pilot episode was brilliant. And then it kind of went downhill from there.
But also he brought a lot of I thought it was interesting that he brought, Allison Janney was in it. And I thought it felt like they were shifting the workplace, but I think Matthew Perry was bringing over some elements from his short stint as far as kind of how the feel of the show went. But that's not a complaint.
No. The thing for me was the first episode never felt like a sitcom. The pilot did not feel like a sitcom, and then the rest of the episodes did. Yeah. And that's where it lost me. But I thought that was a great pilot. So, yeah. Okay, back to What If. I thought it was interesting that we start off with Clint and Natasha as like the last two alive.
Yes.
And I could never tell if they were the last two at all or just the last two people fighting, Yeah,
I got the feeling like just from based on some of their dialogue that there might be some hidden pockets somewhere. But the whole idea of the Ultron objective, if you will, was to wipe out humanity. Yeah. So that's, when Clint was like, is there really even any point anymore? Like, that to me suggested that they were pretty sure almost everybody was gone. Like, it had been an extinction level event.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting had to do with the voice actors in this. Mm-hmm. Because in all the other shows, we got like 90% of the actors back, and then there was a couple fill-ins. This one was the flip of that. Right. Tony Stark was Mick Wingert. Natasha was Lake Bell. Alexandra Daniels was Carol Danvers. Josh Keaton was Steve Rogers. Right. So all the big characters weren't back, but we did get Toby Jones back as Arnim Zola. We got Benedict Cumberbatch in the last few minutes as Doctor Strange. We got Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. And, of course, we had Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. But the one that fascinated me the most was the Voice of Ultron. They didn't get James Spader, which probably no big surprise. Yeah. So they cast somebody else. But who they cast is what's particularly interesting. They got Ross Marquand to do the voice of Ultron. Yeah. Ross Marquand, who, of course, was from Walking Dead, but who was Red Skull in the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame doing
Yep.
a Hugo Weaving imitation.
And I thought it was fascinating, but because it did not feel like he was doing either a Paul Bettany nor a James Spader
It felt like
imitation.
that's what James Spader to me.
It had some of the inflection, but it's sort of like in the although even that was closer in the Infinity War, he didn't sound exactly like Hugo Weaving. Like
Right.
I feel like in between the first and the second one, like he talked to Weaving, and Weaving said, "No, go ahead, go full Red Skull."
Yeah.
And because in the Endgame, he sounded much more like the original, and certainly in Captain Carter.
Yes. And what's fascinating is that Weaving would come back, but he doesn't want to come back for just a little role. So if they did a full movie,
Yeah,
where Red Skull was the big bad again, he would come back. He just doesn't want to do little nitpicky little things,
sure.
Being ache up for hours and hours to do 5 lines type of thing. And I can't blame him.
Yeah.
I can't blame him for that. But yeah, so Ross Marquand has now voiced both Red Skull and Ultron, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah. So you do voices, eh? It just seems like they could have gone. I mean, there are probably other people who could do a James Spader type voice. Now, it not sounding like Paul Bettany makes a lot of sense because the Jarvis AI is never put into the body.
Right.
So it shouldn't sound like Jarvis.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if they really wanted to have been interesting, they should have gotten the guy who did who played Jarvis on Agent Carter to come in and be that. Then,
Sure.
that would have just been weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Which is surprising to be one of the few characters to be in the ABC series and the movies. He's the only one to go back. He shows up in end of Endgame as Jarvis.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Where most of the time Kevin Feige goes, I don't remember those shows existing.
Yeah.
Oh, it had Clark Gregg and Samuel L. Jackson? No, don't remember it. Colby Smulders? Nope, don't remember it.
That's still on it. Haley Atwell? Yes, she's been in several of our films.
Yeah, just take a look at the Marvel's Legends on the thing. She was in the Agent Carter's One Shot and the Captain America movies. TV show? No, I don't remember her having a TV show at all. Though I did find it interesting that the showrunners from the Agent Carter series just got picked up to do a spin-off of The Boys.
Really?
Yes. So that should be interesting.
I wish I liked The Boys more. But I'm just not real big on scatological superheroes, if you will.
Yeah, I get it.
But I thought it was interesting seeing Nat and Clint, just on their own. So, and of course, you had the reversal.
Yes.
Which I very much kind of expected to see, where this time Clint was the one that made the sacrifice.
Though I did notice that when he turned to fire, which is reversed in the Avengers movie, he jumps off and turns up to fire. Now he turns down to fire.
Yeah.
But they paused and widened the angle, wider than the actual silo they're in.
Yeah.
To show off what a gorgeous shot that was.
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous. But it's like, we know it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I did find it also very interesting that they replaced his right arm with a mechanical arm, and suddenly he became right-handed.
Well, he was ambidextrous in the films, I thought.
He always fired left-handed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because in the comics, they never show a left-handed archer. And suddenly we had two. We had Stephen Amell and Jeremy Renner as left-handed archers.
Boy, and I never even noticed that with Amell.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's pretty, so it was kind of weird that they lose his right arm because you'd think, well, robotic arm, he's holding the bow. Still good. But I guess he could go faster with the robotic arm.
Yeah, because I noticed that because when he was doing it, it was very much like.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I noticed that it was basically an Ultron arm repurposed. Yeah. It wasn't like a Wakanda arm. It was, nope, just take one off the robot. Stick it on.
I did like the give you a hand. Puns aren't really my thing. And yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also noticed that she had a better sense of humor in this than she has in any of the shows. Like when she picks up the shield, she's like, hey, Clint, look. It's like,
yeah. You know what what I really felt about that is like Natasha never feels so comfortable as when the shit is hitting the fan.
That's true.
That she's just like, yeah.
Nobody out there other than Clint remembers all the bad things she's done. So it's like, my ledger is now clear.
Yeah. Actually, when she's at first, and I should have known from the backdrop, but when she said we're home, I went, oh gosh, it's Budapest.
Budapest.
Pest.
Budapest. It's weird being on the other side of that one.
Yeah. But I did, it was just, that was just like a very quick thing that went through my head. And then it's like, no, that's the Kremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Home for her. I did love some of his lines.
Yeah.
The Raiders of the Lost Ark line, the Star Wars homage. Yeah, the plans are not in the main computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting choice to have the Watcher kind of like, come on.
Yeah.
It's he's getting, because he's always so stoic
and aloof, and yeah. And now he's like, what do you mean you give up? You're human. Humans never give up. They find hope in everything. It's like, yeah, it's funny how much the character has changed with each episode. Yeah. And it's more than just we can see him better, because in he was just a deep silhouette in the first one, and then a little closer, and now we can see him blink.
Yeah,
which I don't think we ever saw. I mean, he just gets more and more humanized.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think he could fight. I kind of thought he was just a bobblehead.
That is something that has varied widely. I remember going back, and there were like some really beefy Watchers over the years.
There was one in the comics that was actually an armored Watcher, like Aesop or something, or began with an A. So when he suddenly armored up and started fighting him, I'm like, wait, he can do that? Yeah, it struck me as a little odd. It was cool.
Yeah,
but it was a little odd.
The way I figured is, he's always been trying not to intervene, but with defending himself isn't intervening.
Interesting choice of words there. Intervene instead of interfere.
Yeah,
because interfere it's more, because he's always used the word interfere. And interfering is meddling where you shouldn't.
Right.
Intervene means stepping in to help.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting choice there.
Yeah. I meant to do that.
Tell me, why did you use that word, Paul?
Well, Dan, I didn't want to tell you before, but this is your intervention. I think you're
It's
strung
sad.
out on podcasts, Dan.
It's sad that the only person that shows up at my intervention is you.
Yeah, Brian's here. Your old buddy, that D&D buddy, or Warcraft buddy that I got in touch with. So we had some sense of continuity.
Yeah. No, this year has really changed for me to go from, hey, I think I'm going to do a show on Sunday nights to doing 5 shows a week.
Yeah.
4 nights. And it's like, oh my God, how did this happen?
You should reach out to Scarlett Johansson and see if she wants to sponsor your podcast. Because she's got more money than she knows what to do with now.
Oh, I'm sure she can come up with ideas.
If she can, I'm sure Jost can.
Yes. Or Che might have some ideas too.
Yeah, and as far as like comics related people, probably Mr. Gartner has like, wait, I'm in line first. We have an actual connection.
Yep. First thing we're going to do is make Ghost in the Shell never appear like it never happened. That would be the first million. Speaking of miscasting.
Although, I have heard people from the movie to like the original creator to hardcore fans point out that in the anime itself, the whole part of the storyline was that this Asian girl had become this Caucasian killer robot.
Oh. I did not know that.
Yeah. I do find sometimes and this is just, I'm sure my ignorant perspective, but I do find sometimes that I'm not sure in anime sometimes when characters are supposed to be Asian or not.
Yeah.
Because they and I think Scott Cloud talked about it in Understanding Comics, that they try and kind of
homogenize.
Homogenize the characters so that they're more easily identified with by more people.
Like Christopher Lambert's accent.
Yes. Lots of different places.
Yeah, bring it all back around. Good TV. So, what did you think of the Ultron story?
Well, I did think it was. I thought it was. It was more of a solid. What if one thing changed? Some of them. A couple of them, like the Yellow Jacket one.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was more like, there were kind of a series. It wasn't so much a decision. I guess you can argue that the decision was Hope joining S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
On the other hand, didn't happen on screen. We didn't see it. It felt really odd. But this was a very solid one thing changed, and that altered everything. Felt a little sorry for Asgard. They were certainly caught with their pants down.
How about poor Thanos? And there's a phrase I never thought I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm here for.
Ooh, interesting. I did like that. He just cuts him in half and then goes, ooh, interesting, or something like that.
Yeah. And I've heard debate all week about, well, does that mean the Vision could have done that too? Well, yeah, if he hadn't have been jacked up by Cole Obsidian with the spear.
Yeah.
So his powers weren't working right.
Well, and actually, though, didn't Ultron use that Uber Lance to cut Thanos in half?
Nope, it was a Mind Stone.
Was it the Mind Stone? Oh, that's right, because he didn't get the Uber Lance until after he... Yeah, but it would never... it would never occur to the Vision, worthy of Mjolnir, to just cut a guy in half. Hi, guy.
You make him out to sound like Frosty the Snowman. You know, like they open the lid. Happy birthday!
I was going for Chuck McCann from his old. What was it? Which commercials was that? Was it a Razor or was that Alka-Seltzer? But he was just on the other side of the medicine cabinet. Hi, guy.
Yeah, the last guy more recently, the last guy we've seen the other side of the medicine cabinet was the My Pillow guy, and that was creepy as hell. I got a pillow for you here. What we're going to do is it's stuffed with like people's hopes and dreams. So,
and bits of broken glass.
Yeah, and all of the ballots that they didn't count. We got them all here in the pillow.
They're made from bamboo.
No, they are bamboozled. Completely different.
Seth Meyers does an excellent Mike Lindell because he verges on the Chicago guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he verges on Mike Ditka, yeah.
Yeah. But he has that way of talking.
Yeah, it's a little more Wisconsin, though, from what I've actually listened to. It's a little more Yatterhay.
Yeah. So. Yatterhay. Nice.
I was in Wisconsin and was hanging out with this woman, and she started referring to some of her coworkers as Yatterhays. I went, what? She goes, listen to them. Every time they speak, it's like, yeah, we were up in there, hey, thing over there, and yeah. I'm like, Yatterhay. Okay.
Right. Well, that's like in Michigan we have the Yoopers. Oh, I'm gonna go over to Escanaba, right? Mm-hmm. They're very much sort of like a meld between Canadian and Wisconsin, and like to say stuff like "oofta."
I always also thought the names in Wisconsin was fun. I remember the city of Wauwatosa.
Wauwatosa. Oshkosh is, of course, in Wisconsin.
Oshkosh, yes.
One of my favorites, Economawak.
There you go. And then what, Minnetonka? Who's up in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, Milwaukee, which means great waters or something.
Yes. A friend of mine moved to Alabama. I don't remember the name of the city off the top of my head. But when he said
Trash
it to me,
heap?
No. It was an Indian word. I said, do you know what that means? He goes, yes, it means we are boring here.
I shouldn't take shots at Alabama. Some nice people have come from Alabama.
Yes, and most of them left.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They've come from Alabama to other places.
Yeah. It's like the joke. I think it's Carlin who made the joke. New Jersey, a great place to be from.
Yeah. I believe many people think the same thing about Detroit.
Yeah, sadly they do. So, all right. So, What If is going to the final. So this was the penultimate episode. We get the Watcher in action.
Yeah.
We seem to be building towards Ultimate Magic versus Ultimate Tech. Thank you, Brian. What do you think is going to happen?
I think that Strange Supreme is going to eat Ultron, and then Ultron's going to blow himself up inside, but doing so not realizing how powerful Sorcerer Strange is. It's going to drain him, and that will allow all the other people to take him out.
So Strange can absorb somebody who's not technically alive?
But he is technically alive because the Vision's body is bioorganic. In fact, they established that at the beginning of this episode where they said, but Ultron needed an organic body.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or else somebody's going to convince him that he went into an synthetic organic body and he's part of the problem. And V'ger him.
Yeah. Well, I will be interesting to see who they pull in, because we've seen the clips with like T'Challa, Star-Lord, and Killmonger, Black Panther, Captain Carter, and there's a Gamora in there, and it's obviously not from that galaxy because we saw Ultron kill the Guardians of the Galaxy, including Gamora.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of interesting to see
who actually makes up the team.
Yeah. And again, if they do use zombies, I think that'll be fascinating. Because in one of the later Secret Wars comics, the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars, where everything is battle worlds and stuff like that, one of the battle worlds is Ultron drones or Ultron Sentinels versus zombies. And then I think at some point they decide to work together and just wipe out everybody else. But so it would be interesting to see if that's kind of where they're going with it.
Foolish move on the zombies part, though, because they wipe out everybody else. There's no one left to eat.
Yeah. I go back to that episode and I'm like, well, what would a zombie Thanos want when he got the Infinity Stones?
Yeah. Why didn't he just snap everybody gone?
Yeah. But if he snaps everybody gone, then he's taken away the resource he needs. Now he needs people. People are the resource.
So you're saying he's people who need people?
Yes. Or at least a zombie that needs people.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's always weird where you encounter one of those, like, the zombies or the vampires are wiping out all of humanity, and it's like, yeah, okay, then what are you going to eat? It's kind of like humanity getting together and going, destroy all all the cows.
Yeah. As I'm looking at this series, when it wasn't clear that it was all going to connect, I didn't mind some of the odd continuity things. But now it's getting kind of weird. It's almost like they didn't pay as close of attention as they do with the MCU. And even the MCU is a little, I know that the Russo brothers have a conflict of contradict what the writers of Endgame say about Steve Rogers going back in time.
Right.
One says that they created an alternate timeline. The other says no, he existed within the same timeline. Yeah. So there are some glitches when it comes to that, and them trying to work out. It's going to be interesting to see how it all works out.
Well, I'll be curious if we find out that they aren't actually playing fast and loose and that it all connects cleanly or semi, there's always some rough edges and something like that. But like if they're able to manage to go like, no, we've convinced you that it works, which is not the same as it working, but
right. And there's been a lot of rumors about maybe some of these characters popping up in the mainstream, like Captain Carter.
Yeah.
Showing up in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And where I've been hearing that, and it's coming from pretty legit sources or people who normally get these kind of things right, it still seemed kind of off to me until I heard what the Venom end credit scene is. And without going into that for spoilers, I just think maybe it is now possible that some of those characters may pop up. Maybe we see 2 Doctor Stranges in the movie. Maybe we get, Haley Atwell as Captain Carter, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Or Erica, Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. It could be interesting. Then again, that could also fix or take care of the Black Panther problem if you let that Killmonger stay in the main MCU.
I suppose, except once again, he's a manipulative
bad guy.
Bad guy. So I would definitely hope that they do not, swap Killmonger in as a T'Challa substitute.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I often am, Dan. You got to remember, in this partnership, there's always one person that's right, and you.
And there's one of us that has a mute button, and then there's you. So I think I like the What If a little less with it all connected.
Well, if it wasn't just a series of randoms, it would have to be an entire series of randomness to really evoke the comics.
Yeah.
Because the comics, they just were like, they very few of them connected in any significant way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think this is the MCU version. I'm not surprised is tightly woven.
But I guess we'll find out on Wednesday just how tightly.
Yes,
because it does seem like there does seem to be some contradictions.
Yeah,
I realized that the Infinity Stones, they never said they don't work in other multiverses. They just said they didn't work at the TVA.
Right,
but in the comics,
in
the comics they don't work in other multiverses. They only work in the universe they're from. So, that's kind of interesting, and I'm curious, because Ultron's jumping universes and
right,
a lot of them. Yeah.
And yes, they do not seem to be impeded.
Yeah.
By that.
Yeah. Though I've also heard some people say, well, maybe it's because he has all of them. And when they're all together, they can actually withstand it, where by themselves they can't. I don't know. I hope we get some kind of explanation.
Yeah. Well, of course, he's also his own Infinity Gauntlet.
Yes.
So it's not something that he's taking around with him. It's something that is integrated with him. So
true. That could be the difference.
It's vibranium, man. Literally, it's vibranium, man.
Yes, he's vibranium, man. Yeah, which might have been a better name than Vision.
Call me Marvel.
Yeah. So without the final episode, are you enjoying the series?
I am, and weirdly, I like this episode quite a bit, even though it was kind of fatalistic, because they seem to be striving. Like the zombie one, I did not like.
Yeah,
because it just bleak tires me out, and it felt bleak to me. So, whereas this one did, even though the Watcher kind of like said stuff out loud, which is a bit unsubtle, about hope and humans and whatnot, I did feel that pushing forward that never say die aspect. So
Yeah, I can see that.
But you said you're finding it less enjoyable at the tighter it draws together.
Yeah, because now that it's drawing together, I'm kind of looking at the episodes with more of a critical eye, where each one on its own I could look at and go, oh, that was fun in itself. Yeah, it was just a little snippet here, a little snippet there. But if you're going to try to tie them all together in some way, then I start looking at continuity issues and stuff like that. It's the writer in me, you know? Yeah, it just, I guess I can't divorce myself from being a writer. Just, I can't turn that off and just watch things for fun as much as I want to. So I see more flaws with the idea of it all being connected than if it was just, I always take shows for what they say they're going to be.
Right.
If I look at Free Guy, Free Guy, there was no promises. So I was able to go in there and I expected kind of a silly comedy about a non-player character. And I got this fun romantic comedy that had a lot of really fun Easter eggs and good moments. So it didn't try to be something it wasn't. But then I've gone into other movies that are supposed to be something spectacular, and it's like, if I walked in with no expectations, maybe, but, this is what you were trying to sell it as. So.
Yeah, promotions can be tricky. Promotional stuff can be tricky because, you can convince somebody. Well, you know what? I think Hudson Hawk is the primary example of that. If people hadn't gone into it expecting some sort of Die Hard and were expecting something more like Moonlighting, the comedy aspect of Bruce Willis, I think that Hudson Hawk would have been received differently. But there was a lot of in the trailers, they showed up, played up the explosions and stuff, and not really the jokes.
Yeah, well, I actually liked Hudson Hawk, but you're right.
I loved it. I'm a huge Hudson Hawk fan. Like when I'm watching Hudson Hawk, I'm like 20 feet tall, kind of thing. It's like my Pym particles.
All right, I think that's a good place to end this episode, Paul. That, and we're at the time anyway.
Well, that would probably be a good reason. Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in or coming on. Thanks, Brian and Peter, and everybody else who chimed in or like Cody and Lance also watched. So thank you guys. Please hit the like, subscribe button and stuff. That's always greatly appreciated. Yep. And we will be back next week to talk about the What If season finale and whatever other bits of news pops up this week. And hopefully, Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Yep.
All right, folks. So that's Paul. I'm Dan. And everybody have a good week. We'll see you soon.